Namaskar, this is CVR English and it's time to roll the prime time news hour with me, ANUKRITI Sharma. Haryana Aam Aadmi Party President Sushil Gupta reacted to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's statement about resigning in 2 days by praising Kejriwal's integrity. Gupta highlighted that finding someone as honest as Kejriwal is rather rare, noting his previous role as Commissioner of the Income Tax Department where he could have amassed wealth but chose to serve the public instead. He also commended Kejriwal for his steadfastness despite BJP's efforts to undermine him, emphasizing that Kejriwal remained resolute and unbowed. Gupta also mentioned that Kejriwal's decision to resign and to present himself to the people reflects his commitment to transparency and accountability.
अरविंद केजरीवाल जैसे ईमानदार व्यक्ति बहुत मुश्किल है। इनकम टैक्स के कमिश्नर से मैंने याद कर पैसा कमाना होता तो करोड़ रुपए वही कमाते, आराम की जिंदगी जीते, उसको छोड़ के झुग्गियों में जाके रहने लगे, मदर टेरेसा के कैंप के अंदर गए, जनता की सेवा की, मुख्यमंत्री बने, मुख्यमंत्री की कुर्सी उन्होंने पहले भी छोड़ी और बीजेपी ने तो बहुत कोशिश की, हमें तोड़ने की, छुपाने की, जेल में भेजने, सब कुछ किया, परंतु अरविंद जी जेल से डरे नहीं, झुके नहीं, टूटे नहीं। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जमानत दी। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि ताकत का गलत इस्तेमाल बीजेपी ने किया। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि ये सीबीआई सरकार के तोते का काम कर रही है, परंतु अरविंद केजरीवाल ने ये तय किया कि वो जनता की अदालत के बीच में जाएंगे। जनता की अदालत ही सर्वोच्च अदालत है, जनता की अदालत से फैसला करा के आएंगे।
लेकिन जो जनता की अदालत में आप लोग जाने, लोकसभा चुनाव में भी आप लोग जनता के पास गए थे, बीजेपी करिए तब तो जनता ने नकार दिया आपको, अभी तो इन आरोपों के बाद ही चुनाव हुए थे।
लोकसभा चुनाव के अंदर अरविंद केजरीवाल मुख्यमंत्री की लाइन, प्रधानमंत्री की लाइन में नहीं थे। जब अरविंद केजरीवाल उस गठबंधन का हिस्सा बने तो देश की जनता ने बीजेपी को बैसाखियों पर लाके खड़ा कर दिया। अरविंद केजरीवाल जैसा ईमानदार व्यक्ति बहुत मुश्किल है ढूंढने।
BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad questioned why Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal did not resign earlier in response to his statement about stepping down in 2 days. He compared Kejriwal's situation to that of Lalu Yadav and Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren, who both resigned from their posts. Prasad suggested that Kejriwal might be reluctant to give up his position due to fear of losing his power and also criticized him for needing 2 days to think about his resignation. He also expressed disappointment that someone who led an anti-corruption movement would now appear to be making compromises with corruption, which, according to him, is a source of shame for the people of India. Here's a report.
केजरीवाल ने आज घोषणा कर दी कि वो 2 दिन बाद अपने पद से इस्तीफा दे देंगे।
पहले बताएं कि 6 महीना में क्यों नहीं दिए। हम लालू जी के घोर विरोधी हैं, लेकिन चारा घोटाले में गए तो पत्नी को सीएम बनाया, इस्तीफा दिए ना। रांची में झारखंड के सीएम ने इस्तीफा दिया ना जल जाने पर। आपको क्या था? डर था कि कुर्सी आपके हाथ से निकल जाएगी। और 2 दिन क्यों, तुरंत क्यों नहीं? उनके किसी बात पर विश्वास लगता है, कुछ मामला उनको अभी सेट करना है ना। जो व्यक्ति एक बड़े भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ आंदोलन में आगे बढ़ा, वो व्यक्ति भ्रष्टाचार पर ऐसा समझौता करेगा तो भारतीयों की नजरें शर्म से झुक गई हैं।
बोल रहे हैं मैं दिल्ली की हर एक लोगों के घर पे जाऊंगा, अब मैं जीतूंगा फिर आऊंगा।
वो देश में भी जाए ना, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? दिल्ली ने भी समझ लिया, देश ने भी समझ लिया।
National Conference President Farooq Abdullah commented on Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's announcement of resignation in 2 days, noting that Kejriwal's intention appears to be to facilitate elections in Delhi and to also engage directly with the public. Abdullah praised Kejriwal's desire to let the people decide their leadership, suggesting that it reflects a commitment to democratic principles rather than a hunger for power. Here's a report.
अरविंद केजरीवाल ने आज इस्तीफा देने की डॉक्टर साहब अरविंद केजरीवाल ने आज इस्तीफा देने की घोषणा की है, कैसे देखते हैं आप?
क्या
अरविंद केजरीवाल ने आज इस्तीफा देने की घोषणा की है।
जनाब, वो चाहता है कि न इलेक्शन आए दिल्ली में कि वो लोगों के पास फिर जाए, और लोग हैं जो बनाएंगे और गिराएंगे। जो उस पर ने चार्जेस लगाए थे वो ये प्रूव नहीं कर सके, इसलिए वो पब्लिक में जाना चाहता है, क्योंकि लोग फैसला करें। और ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि वो कुर्सी का भूखा नहीं रहा, उसने कुर्सी छोड़ दी। जब उसको अभी बहुत वक्त था, पर नहीं, मुझे कुर्सी नहीं चाहिए, मुझे लोगों का एतमाद चाहिए। ये बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है जमहूरियत में।
डॉक्टर साहब, जो ये 50% लगभग इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट्स हम देख रहे हैं, अगर 2014 में 881 कैंडिडेट्स थे टोटल, इस बार 910 है।
अजी साहब, ये 4,000 आए, ठीक है, लड़े, लोगों के पास जाना है, जमहूरियत है, उसके लोगों को बोले क्या करना चाहता है। ये लोगों का काम है, उसको पसंद करना है, नहीं पसंद करना।
ये जो इंतखाबात है, आम लोगों का सिर्फ ये सवाल है कि ये इंतखाबात अवामी मफाद में तब्दीली कैसे ला सकते हैं, हालांकि अब 2019 के बाद शायद कुछ बचा नहीं है।
यही तो बात है, यही तो इलेक्शन है जिसमें ये वापस लाना पड़ेगा, स्टेटहुड वापस करनी पड़ेगी, और 370 की जंग हमें लड़नी पड़ेगी।
ठीक है। और सर, पीएम साहब ने एनसी और कांग्रेस अलायंस को निशाना बनाया परसों, तो क्या कहेंगे?
क्या कहा?
प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने जो
एनसी और कांग्रेस जो अलायंस है उसको निशाना बनाया।
मुझे प्राइम मिनिस्टर ये जवाब दें। कहते हैं ना, सबका साथ सबका विकास, और क्या है वो तीसरा? विश्वास। मुझे इनसे ये पूछना है, क्या मुसलमान 22 करोड़ जो हैं वो हिंदुस्तान के नहीं हैं? क्या उन्होंने नहीं कहा कि ये घुसपैठियाँ हैं? क्या उन्होंने नहीं कहा कि अगर आपके पास 2 भैंसें या गायें होंगी, एक मुसलमान को दी जाएगी? क्या उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा कि अगर 2 घर होंगे, एक मुसलमान को दिया जाएगा? कहा उनने। और ये नहीं कहा उन्होंने कि अगर तुम्हारा मंगलसूत्र होगा, वो मंगलसूत्र ले जाएंगे और मुसलमानों को देंगे? क्या ये वज़ीर आज़म की ज़बान है? अब कहाँ है सबका विकास, सबका साथ कहाँ है? और हम पे चार्ज लगा रहा है, कहाँ है विश्वास? अगर 22 करोड़ लोगों को ये कहता है कि वो घुसपैठिया हैं, तो मैं समझता हूँ वज़ीर आज़म खुद घुसपैठिया।
On Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's resigning from the post of Chief Minister 2 days later, Congress leader Tariq Anwar said that the way the Supreme Court's decision has come, on one hand, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was granted bail, and on the other hand, it was said that you cannot go to the office and you cannot sign files, so he was anyway prevented from doing the work of a chief minister. And in such a situation, it is not appropriate for him to remain the chief minister, according to his opinion, unquote. Take a look at this report.
एक तरफ तो उनको ज़मानत दी गई, दूसरी तरफ ये कहा गया कि आप दफ्तर नहीं जा सकते, सेक्रेटेरिएट नहीं जा सकते, फाइलों पर दस्तखत नहीं कर सकते। तो एक तरह से मुख्यमंत्री का जो कार्य है उससे उनको रोकने का भी प्रयास किया गया या निर्देश दिया गया। तो वैसी हालत में उनका मुख्यमंत्री बने रहना मेरा ख्याल है उचित भी नहीं था।
आपको लगता है सियासी तौर पर इस फैसले के बाद आम आदमी पार्टी को फायदा मिलेगा विधानसभा के चुनाव में?
अभी नहीं कहा जा सकता। देखिए, पहले भी जब लोकसभा के वक्त में उनको ज़मानत मिली थी तो एक जनरल भावना ये थी कि उसका संपैथी उनको मिलेगी और यहाँ से गठबंधन के उम्मीदवार जीतेंगे, लेकिन उसका कोई खास फायदा दिखाई नहीं पड़ा।
आपको लगता है दिल्ली में मजबूत स्थिति में आम आदमी पार्टी से?
देखिए, पहले इससे तो बहुत फ़र्क हुआ है, इसमें कोई इनकार नहीं कर सकता। और ये भी कहा जा सकता है कि कांग्रेस का ओवरऑल पूरे देश में उसका माहौल बना है, और जो लोकसभा का चुनाव है वो इस बात का संकेत है कि कांग्रेस की वापसी हो रही है और हर राज्यों में हो रही है। मेरा ख्याल है कि 2-4 राज्यों को छोड़कर बाकी सभी जगह हमारा परफॉर्मेंस अच्छा।
Meanwhile, a fire broke out in a shoe factory located in the Lawrence Road industrial area of northwest Delhi today. Fortunately, no casualties or injuries have been reported so far, but thick smoke was seen billowing from the top floor of the multi-story factory. The fire tenders were quickly dispatched to the scene of this incident to control the blaze, and the cause of the fire has not yet been determined and further details are yet awaited. BJP MP Sudhanshu Triwadi has reacted to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's announcement of resignation in 2 days by questioning his actions after being released from Tihar jail. Trivedi has pointed out that Kejriwal, the first chief minister in the country to break his own government's rules, had caused a public display of fireworks despite a ban being imposed by his administration. He challenged Kejriwal's decision to resign, questioning the need for a 48-hour period and also urging further clarity on what Kejriwal intends to achieve or reveal in that time frame.
भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप में जेल जाने वाले मुख्यमंत्रियों के क्लब और श्रृंखला में तो आप शामिल हो गए, एक नया कीर्तिमान बना दिया कि आप जेल से ही रहकर सत्ता लोलुपता की एक नई नजीर आपने देश के सामने रखी। अपनी ही सरकार के जेल से बाहर आकर अपनी ही सरकार के बनाए हुए नियम को तोड़ने वाले भी वो इस देश के पहले मुख्यमंत्री हुए। दिल्ली सरकार ने आतिशबाजी पर प्रतिबंध का निर्णय लिया और दिल्ली का मुख्यमंत्री दिल्ली की जेल से निकलकर दिल्ली सरकार के नियम को ध्वस्त करे, ये एक नई राजनीति थी। तो जेल में रह के तो आपने इस्तीफे की बात की नहीं, बाहर आके इस्तीफा देने की बात क्यों हो रही है? और ये 48 घंटे बाद की बात क्या है? देश और दिल्ली की जनता जानना चाहती है 48 घंटे का राज क्या है, ये 48 घंटे में क्या क्या सेटल करना है। भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप में जेल जाने वाले मुख्यमंत्रियों के क्लब और श्रृंखला में तो आप शामिल हो गए, मगर उसमें भी आपने एक नया कीर्तिमान बना दिया कि आप जेल से ही रहकर सत्ता लोलुपता की एक नई नजीर आपने देश के सामने रखी। और फिर इतना ही नहीं, जेल से बाहर आकर जिस ढंग की आतिशबाजी हुई, अपनी ही सरकार के जेल से बाहर आकर अपनी ही भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप में जेल जाने वाले मुख्यमंत्रियों के क्लब और श्रृंखला में तो आप शामिल हो गए, एक नया कीर्तिमान बना दिया कि आप जेल से ही रहकर सत्ता लोलुपता की।
On Lok Sabha's leader of opposition's Rahul Gandhi's recent statements, Union Minister Ravneet Singh Bittu says, and I'm going to quote him here, Rahul Gandhi is not an Indian. He has spent most of his time outside the country. He does not love his country much because he goes abroad and then says everything in a wrong way. The people who are most wanted, the separatists, experts in making bombs and guns and shells, have appreciated what Rahul Gandhi has said. The enemies of the country, who try to blow up planes, trains and the roads, they're always in support of Rahul Gandhi. If there should be an award to catch the #1 terrorist and the biggest enemy of the country, then it should be on Rahul Gandhi, unquote. Take a look at this report.
नहीं उनको ज्यादा टाइम उन्होंने क्योंकि दुनिया के बाहर बताया है, उनके दोस्त वहां पे हैं, उनकी फैमिली वहां पे है, इस करके मेरी ख्याल से कहीं ना कहीं उनको अपने देश के साथ ज्यादा प्यार नहीं है, क्योंकि बाहर जाके हर चीज उल्टा पुल्टा बोलना, और खास तौर पे अब तो पहले बातें होती थी 2G स्कैंडल आ गया कांग्रेस की तरफ, कोल स्कैंडल आ गया, कॉमनवेल्थ में ब्रिज गिर गए और हो गया, अब तो भी प्रधानमंत्री की फाइल कोई कह दे भी इस चीज में कोई एक भी फाइल में कोई साइन भी गलत हुए, वो तो अब बात है नहीं। अब कैसे डिवाइड करेंगे, कभी ओबीसी की बात कर लो, चाहे कहीं किसी कास्ट की बात कर लो, समझ है नहीं, समझ नहीं है उनको आज तक ये नहीं पता। आज 2004 में हम और इकट्ठे मेंबर पार्लियामेंट 9 में बने, आज तक वो आदमी ये नहीं सीख सका। आज भी वो रिक्शे वाले के पास जाके उसके सीखेंगे भी कैसे। अरे भाई, पॉलिटिकल जीवन में आपको अभी दर्द पता नहीं चला, मजदूर का दर्द क्या है, मोची का दर्द क्या है, एक कारपेंटर का दर्द क्या है, एक मैकेनिक का दर्द क्या है। आज एलओपी होके आप फिर कहीं चले जा रहे हो देखने, आपको जब अभी तक उसका दर्द, उसकी प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं पता। आप आधी से आप ज्यादा उम्र आपकी निकल चुकी है और लीडर ऑफ ऑपरेशन बने हो, अब आप फोटो खिंचवाने के लिए इससे मजाक बनता है भी इस आदमी को, जो हमारी बड़ी नंबर की पॉपुलेशन है, जो देहात में है, जो आम है, वो गरीब है, उसका दर्द ही नहीं पता। ये आज भी 5वीं बार एमपी होके वो अभी भी वो देखते हैं जाके भी क्या रिक्शे वाले का दर्द है, आज तक उन्हें उनका दर्द ही नहीं समझाया, तो इतना जीवन किसमें लगा दिया। और इस बार तो सबसे बुरी बात जो सिखों को बांटने की कोशिश की है, जो कहा है यहाँ पे कितने सिख खड़े हैं, और मैं अभी गुरुद्वारा जा रहा हूँ, मैंने
Shifting focus now to the ongoing US presidential campaigns. Let's talk about Kamala Harris and whether she can beat Donald Trump. She's the former Attorney General of California, a former US Senator, the current Vice President, and also the last-minute pick to be the Democratic Party's presidential candidate after Joe Biden decided to drop out. The old era is over and the new era is here. It is go time, viewers. And if she wins, then Kamala Harris would become the first woman, the first black woman, and also the first South Asian American to hold the top job. So how has Kamala Harris shaken up the entire race? What are the big issues playing out in her campaign, and what are her chances of winning the election on November 5th? Well, so far, it's been a crazy election cycle already, viewers. We've had one candidate who's been convicted of a felony, a disastrous presidential debate, an assassination attempt, and an incumbent president pulling out of the race. Kamala Harris replacing Joe Biden is so far the latest twist. And it has injected some new momentum into the Democratic Party's campaign. A clear sign of that was all the donations that poured in the first 36 hours after Biden also endorsed Harris. 1.1 million people, viewers, 1.1 million people uniquely donated to the campaign in that specific time frame. And 62% of those 1.1 million donors, that's the first time they gave this election cycle to the presidential campaign. And viewers, you can see a lot of that excitement online already. So there is this big buzz around Harris, but all the polls so far suggest is one thing. It is going to be a super tight race nevertheless. The question for the Democrats is whether they can turn that enthusiasm into enough votes in the right places. Because let's remind ourselves what it actually takes to win a presidential election in the US. It does not necessarily come down to getting the most votes overall. It's also about what's called the Electoral College. You see, every state has got an assigned number of Electoral College votes. And the results in each state determine how many of those votes go to each candidate. 270 is the majority. So that is the specific number that both the candidates are chasing to win. Now, some states pretty much always go to the Republicans, the so-called red states, and others reliably go to the Democrats, the so-called blue states. And then there are the states that tend to swing between the two parties, and they are the key to getting that specific figure of 270. Now, in these particular elections, there are 7 main ones which both the campaigns will focus on. So how could she, and I mean Harris, do it? Well, here are 5 major factors that are playing heavily into her campaign. Let's start with the age factor. The issue that 81-year-old Biden could just not shake off. And Kamala Harris is 59, so one of the biggest vulnerabilities for the Democrats has now become a strength. Donald Trump, who's 78, is suddenly the old guy in this contest. And one of the Republicans' main lines of attack just isn't relevant anymore. It also seems that Kamala Harris has captured the imagination of a lot of young people. And young people are a really important voting bloc. She was labeled Brat by the pop star Charli XCX. FYI, Brat happens to be the name of her latest album. And it's becoming a trending meme about being a little chaotic and just being yourself. And Gen Z has run with it. And there are signs that that energy is translating into something tangible during these upcoming elections. Right after Harris entered the race, there was a spike in voter registrations. And viewers, interestingly, please note, more than 80% were between 18 and 34. Young people who kind of so far felt disengaged from the entire process were suddenly thinking, you know what? I feel like voting again. That being said, the Trump campaign is also trying to reach out to the young voters, and Trump's pick for vice president happens to be actually younger than Harris. Next up is what we are calling the woman factor. And there are a few things to untangle here. First is to remember that women voters are another important demographic for any presidential candidate in the US, especially in those swing states that I have been speaking about. Having said that, Donald Trump has already beat a woman to the White House. Remember Hillary Clinton back in 2016? And plenty of women do support Trump. But a few things have changed since he ran against Clinton, including the fact that he's been found liable for a sexual abuse in a civil trial. Trump did weaponize gender and gender norms against Hillary Clinton. We are not sure he'll be able to do that successfully this term, primarily because he has been convicted of sexual assault. And then there is the issue of reproductive rights, people. Polls show that access to abortion is a big concern for a lot of voters, particularly women. There's no doubt about that. And Kamala Harris has been a leading voice on that issue for the Democrats. You see some context here. In 2022, the Supreme Court had overturned a landmark case, Roe versus Wade, which had protected abortion as a constitutional right so far. It was something which the many Republican politicians had been pushing for years. And it was the judges appointed by Trump while he was president that swung the decision, leading to abortion bans in many Republican-led states. Reproductive freedoms could decide these elections this term. The fact that a woman now is the top of the ticket and this is one of her key issues, is going to attract many women, whether they are Republican or Democrat. Next up, how race might play into this election for her. Kamala Harris has got a mixed heritage. Her parents were both immigrants. Her mother came from India and her father is Jamaican. It's hard to judge how her background might affect the vote, and some Republicans have drawn attention to it by referring to her as the DEI pick, which stands for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. There was one video call led by black women in support of Harris when 90,000 people, viewers, 90,000 people tried to join in, and it raised $1.5 million in just 3 hours. Another call led by black men raised more than $1.3 million. Now viewers, please note that the Democrats will not win an election with just black people, but they will lose an election if there are not black supporters. So Kamala has already proven that she can re-energize a base that the Democrats so desperately need if they want to win in November. Another area where Harris seems to be much stronger than Biden, it goes without doubt, is her ability to go on the attack, direct attack against Trump, and the optics around her being a former prosecutor running against a convicted felon. Viewers, she can prosecute the case, the political case and the economic case against Donald Trump. So it changes the dynamic there. Last on our list is Harris's policy record. Now viewers, she's been in high profile positions for a pretty long time. So there's lots of stuff that people can refer to, like her time as San Francisco's district attorney and her time as California's attorney general. She's had mixed reviews, including accusations from some people that she was too harsh on issues like drug convictions and criminalizing the parents of kids who skip school. And then there's Harris's record on the other big issues featuring in this election. There's abortion, which, as we mentioned, her campaign will really push as one of her key strengths. And then there's also the economy. Whereas Vice President, Harris is basically tied to Biden's record. Trump's arguing that the economy is in really bad shape and a lot of people are struggling to put food on the table due to inflation. But Harris will then try to emphasize things like high levels of employment, providing debt relief for students, and the fact that inflation has started to indeed slow down. A trickier sell for Harris, though, is her record on illegal immigration, which Trump and the Republicans are going big on. Record number of migrants have crossed illegally into the US from Mexico during Biden's presidency. And he had specifically tasked Harris to work with governments in Central America to address the root causes to bring these numbers down. Where she's lost, there's no question, has been on the immigration issue. There's no question that she said, "Do not come." But millions of people came anyways. And they came in by record numbers, by the hundreds of thousands. And that, viewers, has been a problem for the Biden administration. Now, those domestic issues will probably weigh most heavily on the voters' minds. But Kamala Harris will also be tested on foreign policy. Things like the US's relationship with China, support for Ukraine, and where does she stand on Israel and the war in Gaza, which is a particularly polarizing issue. Now, some people frame Harris's position on Gaza as slightly different to Biden. They say that she has done more to highlight the humanitarian catastrophe. Now, that might help her to pick up voters who've been, sort of alienated by Biden's approach, or potentially lead her to losing some pro-Israel voters. Among the pro-Palestinians, many don't even differentiate between her position and Biden's and see her as just as much a part of the pro-Israel establishment. So viewers, those are some of the main themes which are being talked about in the run-up in the run-up to November this year. But there is one other key question that Kamala Harris will have to contend with, whether we like it or not. And that's whether the US is ready for a woman president. It's a question with no easy answers. And don't get me wrong, people asked this question when Hillary Clinton lost to Trump. But viewers, that was 8 years ago. And a lot has changed since. All said and done, the Democratic Party has united around their new presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, after Joe Biden dropped out. And Harris has indeed injected new energy into the party and the campaign. But it looks set to be a very tight race against Donald Trump. Well, that brings us to the wrap of this edition of the Primetime News Hour, and I shall see you again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Until then, Jai Hind, Namaskar, and keep watching CVR English.